I will never pretend to be another. I will never want to be another. I will not change who I am just to fit in. I am me. I am not perfect, but I'm working on myself. Working to become the best version of myself. I am working on myself to continue to expand my own self through my own work, in my own way. I am me.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is your girl Wanda God's Rat with my girlfriend Stacy from high school. Don't we look? We're not gonna talk about how long it's been. Just say we look good. Just say we look
Yeah,
good.
you look good. You look good, right?
I have my girlfriend Stacy on with us, and we're gonna be having a very personal, a very intense, a very informal and informative conversation. Hi, Daysta. My cousin Daysta's on. Hi, beautiful. Um, Conversation about the problems. Hold on. I'm sorry. I forgot to turn my volume down. The problems that some people have had when they've checked all of the boxes in life. They've gone to completed high school. They've gone to college. They got that job or career that they wanted, or they're on the path to it. They're making the money that they want to make. They found their life partner, whether it be a husband, whatever life partner, and now they're ready to conceive, and then conceiving is the one thing that doesn't come easy. So that's what the conversation is going to be about, and let me tell you how this conversation came about. I was just telling Stacy
Mm.
that a conversation she and I had about 10 years ago now is one of the three pivotal conversations in my life that changed how I carry myself and operate. So, the conversation that I am speaking of is one in which I used to complain because I had very painful menstrual cycles. I had endometriosis, I had endometriosis, fibroids, and cysts. So, my menstrual cycles were hell. So every month I'd have a post, either a video or a post. Oh my God, I'm selling my uterus. Somebody take my uterus. I'm in pain. Blase, this, that, and the other. And I didn't know that I was being insensitive. Actually, kind of being a jerk without meaning to be. And Stacy very eloquently came into my inbox. And again, we are friends from high school. But one, I'm going to ask her what she was feeling when she came in. And then two, she didn't know how I would take what she had to say. But she very eloquently said, I understand that you're in pain, basically. But there are many of us, hi, Tay. There are many of us that wish we could have those pains if it meant in the end we would be holding a child. She very eloquently, I mean, we had a very long conversation, and she wasn't nasty or whatever, but I felt like such a jerk. So states I did, like, if you notice, you never heard that ever come out my mouth again. And so Stacey, when you came into my inbox, how were you feeling in that moment?
So it's hard to speak your truth, and everybody's truth is a different truth. Like everyone's lived experience is valid, and the feelings you have around things are valid. Like
Mhm.
both perspectives. And at the moment, I was in a stage in my life where I was practicing being able to express myself and set boundaries around things that were being said in my space that would kind of trigger me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was afraid more than anything because I am pretty much a peacemaker, by nature.
Yes.
I'm not going to rock the boat. It's important to me that I um, value and validate other people's experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
certainly it's not common for me to just put myself first. Like that has never been the norm for me. So fear, if I can be really honest, but in the course of all of that life experience for me, the like I had every feeling, and it wasn't always okay to have those feelings in relation with other people. While I knew it was okay for me to be feeling it myself if I was by myself,
Mm-hmm.
feeling and sharing those feelings with other people wasn't always safe. It didn't feel like it was okay to do.
So, what made it feel unsafe? Was it other people's reaction, or were you afraid of how you might react to other people's reaction? What made it unsafe?
Can I say yes?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, you.
Like yes, like it's the unknown. You mentioned as you were doing your intro that idea that many people go through life checking the boxes. They have a plan. My mom used to say man proposes and God disposes. So I would have this plan of what was going to happen, and sometimes God would just say nope, that's not the way it's going to be. And so this was like not because I hadn't faced other challenges and traumas in my lifetime. I had, but this was something that I really had very, 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 very little control over. And
Mhm,
even though I was doing all the things I could do to have control, I didn't
mhm.
really have control. And so it was requiring me to actually imagine my life completely differently than I thought it was going to be. Probably since I was like old enough to hold a baby doll, like I
Right.
always knew I was going to be a mom. I think it was at City. I think I may have gotten a superlative that said I was most likely to have like a gazillion kids or something like that. And it was not because I was easy, like I don't
Right.
think, at least it could have
You
been
were a
because I
good
was
girl, like
Catholic
me.
and I wasn't exactly, being Catholic wasn't like a popular religion in
Hmm.
our high school. But I think it was because I had always kind of been clear, like I love kids and I wanted to be a mom, and that was kind of part of my trajectory in life. So um, the fear really was around not knowing how to even exist in my own skin,
Hmm.
and then being rejected, being argued with. Like what was
Just
the fear?
everything,
Just
yeah.
yeah,
So
just
let me. I do try to acknowledge guests as they come in and speak. So Shantae, remember Shantae Bland?
I do.
That's her, and my sister's girlfriend Denise is
I
in the line. My cousin Dasta, and guys, as I come in, if you all can acknowledge people until Stacy, because I don't want to interrupt her, because of the content of the conversation. So if I do a little wave, if you guys can sort of acknowledge whoever comes into the chat until I can speak to them, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. So I like that the answer was yes to
yeah, the
that.
answer is
Like
yes.
I felt it all. So since we never considered I never considered the male point of view until we had the conversation. How was your husband Paul dealing with it, and how did he feel like he had to be strong for you? Did he had to feel like he needed to hide how vulnerable he felt? Like how was that for him?
So that was one of the hardest things. So when we started out, so Paul and I didn't get married until I was 30.
Hmm.
We were both nearly 30. We're about a year apart. We met a bit later in life. We got married a bit later in life. So we knew that we were going to immediately begin to try to build our family.
Hmm.
And it was immediately clear. I think I kind of knew going into it that maybe something wasn't right.
Hmm.
I joke that if I had known it was going to be so hard to conceive, I might have had a little more fun as a younger woman. But we we started right away, and after when you're an older person, ripe old age of 30, doctors know you're trying to conceive, after 3 months of trying on your own, they suggest that you go have testing done.
Okay.
So we had testing done very early in our marriage, but late in life,
Okay.
and I was the issue. Like
Okay.
there weren't things that he there were things that he could do that would help increase the likelihood of us conceiving, but
Uh-huh.
I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And
Mm.
that was the primary catalyst that was stopping me from conceiving. And there are like a million things that could do that. I had
So
endometriosis
what
that
is
could
that?
do
I
it.
was going to say, can you explain what that is to the audience?
So I'm no expert, but
Mm.
polycystic ovarian syndrome is a collection of sort of like characteristics in a woman that are both metabolic and related to your reproductive hormones. So it puts you in a lane that makes you at higher risk for pre-diabetic and diabetic conditions from the metabolic standpoint, and it puts you at risk for a variety of other things related to being able to conceive. And so there's a whole treatment process that can go into
Mm.
that, related to trying to control the hormones, because that's what it
Mm.
is. It's like a hormonal thing,
Okay.
but it's a hormonal thing that's in two lanes. It's in that lane of diabetes, as well as in that lane of reproductive hormones. And
Got
so
you.
I did not know I had that going into the conversation. The One of the common characteristics is that women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, have oftentimes have multiple cysts on their ovaries, meaning basically the eggs form, but they don't release. And so if
Mm.
you have a lot of that around your ovaries, being able to get an egg that releases and is viable in a timely fashion can be rough. Like, it interrupts your whole cycle. It can be very, very painful. It can cause a whole host of other health issues and outwardly visible issues like weight gain, hair pattern growth issues. And I didn't have like a lot of that stuff. I was a
Mm.
little chubby, but I didn't have like most of the other things. And so it was a surprise. And um, there's a treatment pattern, and we went through all of those things, and we were doing years of fertility treatment
What
before
type of treatments, if you don't mind me asking?
you name it. We did the medicinal treatments, where you took a pill that would try to like force the ovulation. We did just all sorts of assistive reproductive technologies. It's called ART. The one that we invested, and I do mean invested in, the most was IVF.
Mm.
And so all of those treatments are aimed at getting a viable egg, being able to fertilize it, getting it into your body, getting it to implant, and then getting your body to sustain it you know, until a baby is born. And you name it, it was tried. Like we did all of them. And like I said, take my money. I want a baby. Take all my money. And we did that for years and years, and like more than a decade. We did that kind of treatment. And so, kind of cycling back, Paul knew very early in, to your question about Paul. Paul
Mm-hmm.
knew very early in our, and I see you, Jerome.
I
um,
know. I was getting ready to say, "Hi, Phony Rome." That's our Jerome.
so,
And wait a
um,
minute, hi, baby. He's trying to be quiet while we while we're talking. He
oh,
just
he
got
just
in
walked
the
in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My cat's out there meowing. So anyway, so Paul knew like 3 months into our new marriage that my body was broken, like I was not going to be able to do this. And so we went through all of these things. And at one point, somewhere in that decade, we took a little, not really a staycation, but we had decided to pause and
Mhm,
regroup. The doctors had met with us and said, look, we've done everything we can do. You're in here day, because it's a daily treatment and you're at the
mhm.
center. Like, it had consumed years of our
Everything.
newlywed life. And so the doctors at the Fertility Center of Maryland, and I can't say that how wonderful they are, said, look, we've done everything. you like the rest of it's sort of like a black box. We can't tell you why it's not working. We can't promise that it will work. You're really going to have to decide for yourself whether you keep doing this, how often you do this, what your plan is. But we see you coming in, we see the wear and tear, we see,
But yeah, was it putting a strain on the marriage on you? And
well, I
it,
didn't think so,
mhm,
but we took this little staycation where we rented a room at the Admiral Fell Inn, and we decided just to spend a weekend away from our home, away from our phones, like away from the world, and just sort of talk about like what would life be like if we didn't
mhm.
have children. And Paul commented that he had decided that he was going to stay with me, and I was like,
Like I didn't know that was on the table, whether you
right.
stay
And
or
that's
not.
exactly what we talked about, like that
Mhm,
I didn't even like that didn't even occur to me.
mhm.
um and yet that's really common, like it's really, really common for marriages to literally fall apart in the wake of one or the other partner not being able to create a
I see.
family together in a natural way or in a like a biological way.
Mhm.
And I was shocked, like I was shocked. And then he said, "Oh, and by the way, I need to run home and feed the dogs because we didn't board the dogs for this little
Right.
staycation." So I was there in the hotel by myself, and he had run home, and I'm like just crying my eyes out because I had no idea that that was something that he was working through. It didn't. And I'm
Right.
a pretty smart person, and I'm pretty
Right.
smart from like a social
Definitely.
emotional learning
Always. Yeah.
perspective. Like it didn't like
It never even registered that that was on
that.
the table.
And meanwhile, like I had found a therapist who specialized in infertility, so I was going to this therapist. I
Mhm.
was seeing the doctors more. I mean, obviously it was my body that had to have all the treatments.
Mhm.
But here was my husband like dealing with some things that we hadn't talked about. And I mean, I was glad he said he chose me again and again and again. And
Yeah.
we're still, we've been married now for over 20 years. And but I was like, oh. And so when we stopped the treatments for a while, that's
Mhm.
when things kind of started sinking in on him.
Mhm.
Like he was with me, like running the race. And then when the race was over, that's when he sort of collapsed. And we had to spend a lot of time deciding, like, were we going to continue anything related to this? And if we were, what would it be and how often would it be? But it was the first time I gave him a chance to really lean in on that decision. Before
Because
that, it was, yeah,
before that was probably you were just thinking it's my body, I'm making the choices and decisions, not
right,
thinking about the fact that he's the other parent and he
right.
has it's both of your finances, it's both
Hmm.
of your home, and it's both of your moves, and
And he had to
it's
give
like
me that long needle in the backside. And he had
right, exactly. Oh, so now if I'm this question is too personal, did you have any pregnancies that didn't come to term?
yes,
You
yes,
did. Okay.
yes,
I won't stay there. Now, how you said you had tried many years. How many years in total had you tried? And let
yeah.
me say this, guys, real quick. I'm having this conversation with her because we have a beautiful young man. And she did eventually conceive, and we'll talk about that. So don't think this is going to be a woe is me, oh my god, and this is going to be a Debbie Downer conversation. We have
Well,
beautiful
let
Tommy.
me address that a little bit then, because you were saying how long, and I said I'm a long hauler with
Hmm.
my treatments. I We continued after that first handful of years. We did 11 years of fertility treatment, so like a decade of active treatments. And then, so I told you we got married when I was 30. That meant I was about 40 when we decided to stop active treatments. And then we I had an offer from, I call her my cousin in heart. She was at one point married to a cousin that I grew up with, and she had reached out to me and offered to be a surrogate. So we had investigated surrogacy with her. We actually ended up putting it on hold because she got pregnant with her own third
Oh,
child, and so we had to wait. We had to
how
wait
did
a
that
minute.
make you feel? Did you feel cheated?
Um,
I know you.
Not with.
I know you would be happy for her, but did you somehow feel like
Well,
that?
so yeah, so that was the so with this cousin in heart, I was at a point that I could truly be happy with her and not feel cheated.
Okay.
I had gone so far in my journey around what I believed God's role was in this for me, that I was in a different place at that moment. That might have actually destroyed me like a decade
Some
earlier.
years before.
But when it happened, I kind of felt like it was man proposes, God disposes, and she has a beautiful little girl as a result of that. And then we looked into adoption, you know, because a lot of times that's what people say, like, why don't you just adopt? Why don't you just surrogate? Why don't you just, yeah, why don't you just?
Why don't you just shut up?
Why don't you just? So, but for me, the thing that was the hardest during that, like that length of time, I said I was a long hauler, was the reality that sometimes I felt exactly what you just said, which was sort of like sorry for myself. And I started worrying that I was the friend that nobody wanted around because all I exuded was that I was at some point in a cycle, at some point in a process, and it was all consuming for me. So I would talk about it. And then I always worried that people were sort of like, here comes Eeyore. Thanks for noticing. You know, like,
You know what? I understand that, Stacey. I feel the same way with being a chronic pain sufferer.
mm,
As you notice, I hide a lot. I don't go come to a lot of the events like I used to. You know, see me posted because even now I'm sitting on a heating pad with pains going down my back and legs, trying to hide it. And
mm,
and when I went out with my girlfriends for our belated Galentine's, I thought I was hiding the fact that I was hurting, and they each of them individually came up to me like, "You're hurting, aren't you? You okay? What
right,
can I get for you?" And you don't want to be that person that stands out for whatever the reason is.
right. So I'll give you the example. Like, you know, I would get an invitation to a baby shower.
Mm,
Joyful, right? Like such a
right,
joyful event.
but
And
not
oftentimes for people that I loved dearly, you know,
right.
that, um, and that's a time you're like, it's not about me,
Mm,
right? Like it's not about me. And I would have to work really hard to separate that feeling. I had, my sisters in heart. I have two brothers, an older and a younger, and they're both married to two really amazing women who are my friends. And my
okay,
I don't have sisters, so they are my sisters in heart.
right.
And they both. It was. I'll never forget. It was like an Easter Sunday at my mom's house. I had just had. I had just had a fertilized egg implanted several days before that. So I was sort of like sitting on an egg, right?
Literally.
And I'm pretty sure it was an Easter. We were at my mom's house for something. I can't remember what it was. It was a spring holiday of some sort. And each of my sisters in hearts had within like moments of that announced their own pregnancies, like they for their youngest, each of them. And
Okay.
so their youngest were born within 3 months of each other. And so we were there and celebrating a pregnancy announcement. And I love being an auntie, like, and I love my brothers and their wives and all of their
Right.
children with all of my heart. And I've been present for like anything that they would welcome me to be present for.
Right.
And I went upstairs to use the bathroom and I was bleeding. And, you know, and so here I was like at a family event celebrating these announcements,
Right. And realizing what you
knowing
is
that
going
I could
on.
be with them. And how cool would it have been for like us to
Yes.
have like three
Dream.
little ones,
Right.
because they
Oh.
each had like older, like, you know,
Mhm.
my brother had older kids. And so and I had to come downstairs and I felt like I couldn't let anyone know. that had happened, like, so have your cry up in the bathroom, blot your eyes off, and then step right back into the world as if like everything is okay. And those things happened over and over. Mother's Day Mass, when the priest would have the whole congregation pray for the birth of babies from natural conception to natural birth, like, and the whole congregation would say, Lord, hear our prayer. And I'm sitting there like having just finished, like, sensitive, and because all those treatments make your ovaries kind of like ouch. And so like, I knew it was all right there. But and then my whole family sitting in the pew, Lord, hear our prayer, because that's what good Catholics do. And meanwhile, I'm like,
Right. I
take that
can't say
prayer and shove
this.
it, like
Mom just saying how so
my
brave of
God
you.
doesn't want that.
Right, right.
God, as I understand him, doesn't want, isn't that,
Exactly.
he
And
doesn't meddle that.
there's some things Jerome is saying so brave of you, and it sounds easy, but not. And then it's like a lot of things that we go through. Let's be honest, like with my pain levels and being in pain literally every day, sometimes it starts making you ask God, like, what is your plan in this? What is the
Mm.
purpose for the pain that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this? And you're not supposed to question God, but I'm like, but I think I am in this case. I need to understand
Oh, I
what I'm
question.
supposed to get out of this. What's the lesson in this for me?
I questioned. So I had, I don't know that I've ever shared this with you. Most of my saddest moments, because I mentioned that grief, like the feelings that men and women go through when this can't happen for them, are the feelings of grief. And it's not a process. Like, it is just experiences. Like, you can be angry today, bargaining tomorrow, back to being angry the next day, then in denial. You skip all around with those feelings, right?
Mhm.
And so I would go through most of that very privately. I didn't want to burden my husband with it. I didn't want to burden my friends with it. I was trying to be fairly driven and intellectual and like purpose driven in the world. Like, I've got this under control. Like, I'm going to the doctors and I'm doing the things. And,
Right.
if I look back on it, I'm going to be able to say that at least I gave it my all. But I would fall apart on my own, whether it was in my car or when I was at home alone. And that
Mhm.
wasn't very often, but it would happen. And my one of the most significant experiences I've ever had spiritually was, and I'm sitting in my bedroom on my bed right now. I was kneeling on the floor at the side of my bed. I had another failed IVF, and I was crying, and I was crying, ugly crying. And that's part of the reason I didn't do this, because I'm an ugly crier.
Me too. When I cry, ain't nothing cute about it.
So ugly, so ugly.
Right.
And so I was literally on my knees on my
Hmm.
hardwood floor on the side of my bed, you know, yelling at God, God, why are you doing this to me? Why? And I kept feeling like a little like Sally Field. If anyone's ever seen Sally act when she's ugly crying, she's like,
Hmm.
why, God, why? And she gets like the crinkled forehead and so anyway, I was having one of those why? And of course he wasn't answering me, because I was
Hmm.
yelling at him. And, we ignore children when they're having temper tantrums, right? But then I was crying, and I was just like, what would you have me do? Was like my next question. So at first it was
Hmm.
why? And then it was, what would you have me do? Which I repeated. I wasn't yelling, buddy. I was just, my little one just walked
It's
in the door.
Tommy checking on you.
It's Tommy,
Oh,
because he heard me. I was just, I,
oh, that's
I'm
her
okay,
little
buddy.
miracle,
I'm just
y'all.
telling a story. I'm telling a story. I'll be out in a little bit. Wonderful. I'm glad you did. All right, I'll be out. Remember, you were giving me some privacy.
But you said I could come in.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
But I'll be out shortly. Go ahead out
You let me come in.
soon. See you soon.
Get off. Get
Uh,
off my mom.
all right, I'll see
Listen
you
to the
soon.
cat.
Will
The
you,
cat,
will you
like, I
close the
want a
door?
piece of the action.
I
Meow.
I'd let him step in, but he just got out of the bath, so he's in his like
Oh, I was gonna
bathrobe
say I
underwear.
didn't want to overstep my boundaries. I was like, you
Yeah,
can walk
tell
in.
him about that.
Okay, I won't. Privacy. He's looking cute as a button. So, so I was doing that, like that, what would you have me do? And I was really pretty emotionally worked up, and I felt this. I can't really explain what it was. It just washed over me, and it was like sudden calm, like just a sudden calmness, like a total stillness. And it was like it was coming from inside of me and outside of me all at the same time. And I heard God speak. And I know for some people that's not part of their belief system, but for me it
It's part of
was.
yours. That's what
He
matters.
he clearly said, "Wait." It was like as clear as could be, and I was like, "What?" And he repeated it, "Wait." And then I chuckled and I was like, "Have you met me?" Like
Like,
I
do
am
you know
yours,
who I
and do
am?
you know? Like, wait, like, what do
You
you mean?
created me,
Wait.
and you don't know that I'm still lacking that thing called patience.
Right, right, right. And so I stepped away from all of that, pretty literally godsmacked, right? Like, because he had never spoken to me that clearly before.
Mhm.
And it was a whole body experience. That voice was inside me, outside me,
Mhm.
around me. I don't know how else to
You
explain it.
felt you felt enveloped in his protective embrace.
Completely,
What
completely.
that reminds me of that is that poem "Footprints in the Sand."
Yes, yes. And
That's what that
Jerome,
reminds
yes, you
me
did hear my cat, by the way. I see his cat.
Jerome
This is,
is funny.
yeah,
So now let me ask you this: after you heard "Wait," because it was after our conversation, I think it was probably about 2 to 3 years, if that, that you announced Tommy that you were
so
pregnant. Is
we
that?
decided to just stop the treatments with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like God told me, wait. And so like why am I trying to like outplay him, right? Like why am I trying to do that? And but then I started to doubt that, and we had I was in the grocery store, and it's a God wink. Like I had a series of God winks that helped me through this stage of my infertility. And so I was in the grocery store, and I was in line to go, and in the lane next to me was a mom who had two children, and one of them was this adorable little girl in like I'm obsessed with diaper butts. Like she had a little pink sweatsuit on, and she had this little diaper butt, and she had these little like dark black pigtails or ponytails out, and these little chubby cheeks. She was so
Mm.
beautiful, and I couldn't stop looking at her because she was just so beautiful. And that's me all the time. Like I like give me your babies, I'm gonna hold them. Like
Right. That's
so
me too. I'm the baby whisperer.
I'm in the grocery store just like slobbering over this beautiful little girl, and the woman in front of me turned around because so oftentimes when I would go through the grocery store line, I would get in front of my cart so that I
Mhm.
could unload it, but have my cart be between me and the person behind me. And
Right.
so this woman, her cart was in front of her, so we happened to be standing next to each other. And
Mhm.
she turned around and she said, "You don't have any children, do you?" And
What is it written on my forehead? Like,
right, right. I was like, how
right,
do you, and I'm like looking at my groceries, like I'm like, is there anything about my groceries that says I don't have any children?
right.
And I said, I don't. Like, like, what, what made you say that? Because again, I was learning how to practice my boundaries. And she said, the way you were looking at that little girl. And I said, yeah, I said, I love children, and I'm a teacher, excuse, I will in a second, Tommy. I'm in the middle of something. And so we ended up, she was explaining to me that she was a foster mom, and
Mhm.
that she had conceived children of her own, but then she went on to foster and adopt many other children.
Mhm.
And so she had asked me if I had ever considered that, and I said, yeah, it's a consideration. It's
Right.
like it's just a process. And meanwhile, I'm kind of like, this is a lady in the grocery store, right?
Right.
Like, so I wasn't really sure how to respond. But then she took me by both of my hands and said, and this is a quote, don't you worry about a thing. God has a plan for you. And then walked away from me. So the cashier and I are both like,
Like, what just happened?
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had like three or four things like that happen, like in very close proximity, where I felt that God, as I understand God, was making it very, very clear to me that
He hadn't
I'm not in
forsaken you.
control, that I have
Mm-hmm.
to trust whatever's going to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that I just needed to roll with it. And I had no sense at the time whether it meant that it would result in a child or not. All
Right.
I knew was that he was telling me to stop, like to
Mm-hmm.
stop pushing so hard and to
Mm-hmm.
just trust in whatever the plan was going to be,
Right.
like
Okay.
whatever it was going to be, which was a big ask, like
Right.
that was a big ask. So then you mentioned Tommy, and you folks have heard Tommy. I'm one of those. It wasn't that I just needed to relax, because that's something that we get told a lot. Just
Mm-hmm.
relax. Once you relax, you'll conceive.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't my problem.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it wasn't just relaxing. So if anybody ever says that, like, I'm always like, no, that's not the thing. But
Right.
I did conceive naturally when I was 44.
Mm-hmm.
And what seemed to be a huge part of that was that something shifted in my cycles and in how my body did its monthly thing. Because,
Mm-hmm.
not to overshare, sorry, Jerome, but I'm as right as rain, and I'm 51, and I'm still like
Mm-hmm.
right as rain every month, and could probably conceive now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying, but
Right.
um,
Right.
we're one and done, and Tommy is more more than
He is amazing. So, I'm getting ready. I want to share the video that I made so that they could see our Tommy. So let me go and see
he's
where I
amazing.
have it in my.
I mean, I know I'm biased, but he is
Would you say
truly,
you're a little biased, just a little
yeah,
bit?
yeah. But he has taken my heart.
Let me see. Oh, I didn't upload it to here. Hold on one second.
Mhm.
Let me not do too. Okay, let me not do too much and mess up the live. So,
Well, while you're doing
um,
that, let me share a little bit about that whole idea.
okay,
Like I said, he's my heart, right? One of the things
right,
that was so hard for me, and I don't know if other people have this experience, is this idea of him being a blessing. Like, I
right.
do believe in blessings, but I also, thank you, Jerome, but I also knew I wasn't being punished by God.
Mm,
Like, so he
that's
wasn't
important.
there. Like, how many times, like, during this whole thing, I remember being at Ocean City with my family, and there was this thing on the news about a baby that was found alive in a dumpster. And
Mm,
I remember just being like so angry about that. I mean, like, furious about it, because
right.
ah and like, just give me that baby. Like, here I am waiting and trying and wanting. Thank you,
Maybe we'll get to
Tommy.
see him in person.
Right, right. Like, here, like, I just wanted this baby, and yet there were people literally putting babies in dumpsters. And so I do remember. Sorry, my son wanted me to get a note from under the door,
Oh,
because
okay.
he's not allowed to come in, so we get notes. So
Oh, that's too precious. Oh my goodness. Look,
so
I like he knows the boundaries. Wait a minute. Sorry, I'm trying to get it on my phone so I can get the video. He knows the boundaries.
he does, he does. Tommy, if you want to come in here and sit quietly, you may, but you have to come sit quietly. I know this is our cuddle time, so he's kind of like,
Aw, we're
this.
interrupting cuddle time,
Yeah,
guys.
it's all
Wait a
good.
minute. I'm
Well,
so
if
sorry,
if I were
Tom.
not on this, he would be insisting on playing video games right now. Oh,
He is
Daddy's
too
got him.
cute.
Daddy's got
So after you heard the word from God,
him. Hmm.
how long did it take you to conceive after that point?
It was about 4 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, of course, I can't get my video to play. It's not giving me the option on my phone to share from my device. Hold on one second.
Hmm.
Oh, wait a minute. I have to log myself in on this other phone. Wait
Wait
a
a
minute.
minute, that's the problem.
Okay, let me turn this down. And I need to turn this down. I'm just trying to get to the point where I can share something from my phone. I'm going to keep working on that. Let's continue the
Well, I was
conversation
going to
because I
say,
don't want to mess up anything.
you keep working and I'll
So,
just talk. And when you think you've got it, tell me,
when, and let me come out of that.
Yeah. So we did, I came to realize that God wasn't up there, like on his throne, saying, you get a baby and you don't get a baby. You get a baby,
Right.
don't get a baby. This was a time where maybe being a little intellectual was good for me because
Mm-hmm.
my body wasn't doing the thing. That's what the science was, right? Like my
Mm-hmm.
body wasn't doing the thing. Um, but in order for, I always felt like in order for my body to be the best it could be, I needed to start asking, like, what is your intention for me, God? Like, I used to pray for God to take the desire to be a mother out of my heart.
Oh, wow. That's deep.
Like if that's not, I used to say, like, if that in my prayers to him, like, if it's not part of your plan for me, can you please remove the desire from my heart so that I can see your plan more clearly? Because like
That's
I
really
feel
deep.
like I mentioned, like I'd wanted to be like since I could hold a baby doll, like that's just part of the thing. And I find it profound that the desire was never removed.
Exactly.
Like it was never removed. And because that I do believe God can do, like, move your spirit, if you will. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he's up there doling out cancer or
Punishments.
not,
Right.
babies or not, AIDS or not, like bad things happen to good people.
So Nicole Francis is up here. Remember Nicole Francis?
I do. And I saw faith is active, but stopping and waiting is the trust.
Exactly.
And
And
thank you,
Shantae is
Tommy.
saying this conversation is blessing a lot of people. And Jerome is saying in his timing, not ours. And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? I was able to do the video, so I'm about to show Tommy.
Yay.
So here we go.
Pounding a rhythm to the brain. La da 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 dee. Da 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 da. Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La da 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 dee. Da 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 da. Drums keep pounding a rhythm.
That's my boy.
More than words can say. You're the light that brightens my day. You're the reason I'm alive and well.
Okay, so because
Sweet.
of the orientation of my computer, it's not showing his face all the way. But I'm gonna post his pictures on my site, the video. I had these cute little videos. This technology, but in
No, I'm
order to
so
get
sorry.
everything, get us the way that I wanted, I had to change the
You had to change the
orientation.
orientation. Well, so he's
So,
got, I mean, not like his mommy. He's got blue eyes and blonde hair. Tommy is like my mother through and through. So those of you that are friends with me on Facebook, I lost my mom before Tommy was born. And there's a lot of things relevant to Tommy that are adjacent to my mom, conception dates and actual due dates. And like she had her hand, like
and
her lips to God's ears,
oh
without
wow.
a doubt. But that's a story for another time. But he's her spitting image. Like
So some of the sweetest pictures that I used to see was with Tommy and your dad who was sick, and you were his
Mhm.
caretaker, and he was. It's like from what I gather, was that he didn't remember a lot of things, but
Yeah,
Tommy was his everything. Like
it
it's
was.
like he was a different person
It
when
was
he held
wild. So my
Tommy.
dad, yeah, my dad had dementia, which we realized much more after my mom had passed. And my older brother and his wife and family, took my dad into their home, and so I did sort of respite opportunities for them, and my dad would come and stay like long weekends and weekends here to give them breaks, but they were his primary caretaker.
Okay.
And my dad would confuse lots of people. I mean, dementia is a cruel physical state of being, and but my dad, we told my dad on his birthday that I was expecting, and we have the cutest video of him because we served him. He loved ice cream, and
I,
I know you know that because you had ice cream one day to help me
yes.
celebrate him one year. He loved ice cream, so we served him pickles and ice cream, and he looked at that bowl, and he looked at me, and he looked at that bowl, and he started crying because he knew what it meant, like even with the dementia, right? And
Right.
so he always knew that I was expecting. He couldn't wait, he couldn't wait. He called me one day and said, come on, I'm taking you shopping, mom's not here, I got to take you to Carter's. And he took me shopping one day.
Oh,
Well, I took him shopping, and then
right.
he picked out things. And then he couldn't remember Tommy's name, but he called him the baby with the blue eyes. And so he would call me and say, so how's my baby with the blue eyes? And he always knew that there was the baby, that the baby was mine, and that I was his. And so even though you know, my dad, we lived for moments of joy, and we lost him before Tommy can even remember.
Mhm.
Um, Tommy was a little more than one. I think he might have been approaching two. But dad knew
But you
Tommy.
have the pictorial history of your dad holding him and looking at him
There's a
with so
beautiful
much
picture of
love.
him.
They
Like,
are. I look. I remember them, and I don't even remember half my own life.
or as we were saying, like our birth dates were
Right.
sometimes our names,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. So I mean, what has been, if you can even quantify this, what has been your most beautiful part of being a mom, or like the like what stands out the most?
I knew I loved kids, and I knew I wanted kids.
Mhm.
I didn't know how much you could possibly love another human being
Mm.
until you were wholly and fully responsible for their care. And I
Mhm.
offer that the way I do because I didn't need him to be biologically mine for that feeling to be there. I think I
Mhm.
maybe thought I did, but I'm realizing that it's not the biology that makes me love this little boy. It's
Right.
the it's that this little boy needed to be cared for and needed unconditional love and needed, and so just realizing that, like, there are no limits to like our soul's capacity to love, like it is. And then realizing how much my mother must have loved me too, like, because
There's no compare.
I mean, parents and kids, like, our relationships are complicated, right? Like,
We won't even
but
go there.
right, but that
However,
simplicity, but the simplicity of that
yeah,
love.
like I just the love of it. Like even when I remember when my daughter was born, and I looked down into this beautiful little girl who looked just like her father, except she had my nose. Oh, Jerome, don't, yeah, she bringing tears to my eyes too. She looked just like her dad, beautiful eyes and eyelashes that I would kill for. And I was like, oh my God, she has my nose. That was the first thing I said.
Hmm.
Because she was this pale little thing. She was almost your complexion. And you know my complexion. And her father was purple. So I didn't understand how we had this pale little baby. And then um I remember when I finally got to hold it, took me a while because they gave me an epidural too late, and I was shaking. So I was scared to hold her myself because I didn't want to drop her. And my girlfriend, Michelle Sims, was in the delivery room,
Oh.
just happened to be there. And she held it up to my chest, and just the overwhelming sense of pride,
Hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
responsibility,
Right. Oh, the responsibility. Yeah.
everything just hit me. And in that moment, I knew that there was nothing or no one,
Mm-hmm.
that nothing I wouldn't do and no one I would ever allow to hurt that kid.
Right.
If it was in me to stop it, I would go to hell and back for
Right.
her.
I tell Tommy every day. I love him every day, all the
Mm-hmm.
way, good times and in bad, no matter what. And he has my son's twice exceptional, maybe thrice exceptional. There's he's yeah, that's a story for another time too. But he makes mistakes, like he's learning, he's growing, he's and sometimes he looks back on decisions he's made as a little 8-year old, and like he knows he messed up, and I'm like, yeah, but I still love
I
you.
love his processes. I love how you put how he's going through his processing. I stalk your page. You know I stalk your page where Tommy's concerned. I mean,
He is like he's a hoot, and I'll tell you, he's always like 2 steps in front of like everybody all the time. It's really like God knew what He was doing, giving me this opportunity this late in life, because I would not have survived in my 20s if I had given birth to this child. Like he would have been like, I didn't have the skills. Like it would have been really bad. It would have been really bad. And so, like when I think about now, so I was childless not by choice for a long time.
mm,
I went through fertility treatments. I have this like happy ending, right? That
yeah.
everybody kind of would hope for, but not everybody gets. It doesn't end this way for like every woman. And I think one of the things that I continue to feel obligated to do is to to be present for other women, regard and men. I mentioned to you, I have a male friend that I've talked with at different times about
Mm-hmm.
this, like just to be present and sensitive on those holidays. So when Facebook is blowing up with the Happy Mother's Day, or the This is my National Sons Day, or like whatever it is, just being cognizant that there are people that are sitting on the other side of the screen, maybe next to you at the MTA, maybe across the hall from you at work, that are silently navigating these holidays, these moments. Um, and it's painful for them, like it. I shared with you about my earrings, and so I'll share
Mm-hmm.
with your guests. I My mom had a half sister. She had several half sisters, but one of her half sisters was a lesbian and is no longer with us. And Patsy made these earrings. They're made out of reclaimed copper from a farm roof. Like I don't know if you can see them.
Gorgeous,
So
yeah.
she would cut them out and polish them. Patsy, before she passed away, um, and she knew I was going through these fertility treatments,
Mm-hmm.
had a conversation with me about how her heart was breaking for me, but then also shared, she grew up in a time where, as a gay woman, like you hid it, you denied it, and you
Mm-hmm.
certainly weren't really given license to have your own family. And so while
Right.
she wasn't struggling with infertility, she was still struggling with childlessness,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned very quickly not to compare, that it wasn't like a competition. There could be women that had children from a first marriage, remarried and wanted to have children in a second, and are having secondary infertility.
Mm-hmm.
There could be people who had any number of reasons why it happens, but it's pretty pervasive in our society, and um, we don't acknowledge it. Like it's.
Well, you definitely taught me. Like I said, it was one of the three conversations that I know for sure changed how I act and react to certain people, situations, and
Yeah.
things. So I'm now
You.
cognizant of those things as well. And I thank you. I know I never told you before tonight, but I thank you for opening my eyes to my unintentional insensitivity.
Well, I thank you
And
for letting me be like safe enough to try to talk to someone about it. Like that was.
we are Sister City Knights. What else do we do? So I would not mind if your friend, please ask him if he would come on
I
and
will.
talk from the male
I will.
perspective.
I
And
won't
then,
forget this time.
and then also, oh, Javon, it's so wonderful to hear your story. Also, if he does, I'd like Tommy to come on and so they can see the actual Tommy, if that's okay, if
Oh,
he
let me see.
wants to.
He probably
And
will want to, but I will warn you, he just got out of the tub and he found this toy. So he has this like ball strapped to his head that he's trying to like bounce. Hey,
but
Tommy,
I just don't want
can
to
you
take up
come
all
here
his
just to say hi
playtime.
to my friends? I'm just gonna,
Okay.
yeah, just come here. I was,
Hi.
so this is my
Hi,
boy.
Tommy.
Do, 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 do.
That's the song from
Hi.
his
I'm
video
the lady
game.
that your mommy used to get the cakes from.
That's right. Do you remember I used to get cakes from, and Miss Wanda used to send me
You are
cakes.
so handsome. Fist bump. There we go. Fist bump.
That's awesome. All right. I'm
Everyone,
giving you
that's
a little bump.
Tommy.
Thank you. So that's my
That's the
boy.
one. That's
Wait,
the
let me
one
do
we
one more
prayed
thing.
No, I don't want
for.
you to throw that at the camera. So see, this is what eight
you
is.
you said it. You said he was gonna do it. Danny said he's a little cutie.
Thanks. All
So
right.
I'm not gonna take up all
What are you
his
gonna do?
playtime. Girl,
Wait,
wait a
your
minute. Let me
meeting's
tell you how
over.
prepared. Look, you
Wait, your
you
meeting's
said
over,
it.
is it?
We are knights. I had
Is your
two
meeting
pages of
over?
notes. Look, two pages of questions for you.
Oh my
And
goodness.
but we flowed
And
with
the
it. We
meeting.
just had a conversation, and I think that was the most authentic
Okay,
way to
okay.
be.
Well, and
Um,
I'm one of those people that I will outstay my welcome. So if you
no,
ever want
not
to
at
revisit the
all. Not
topic,
at all.
Okay.
I just
um,
don't want Tommy
yeah,
to feel like we're taking over his
yeah,
time.
I do
Beautiful.
have to do
Wait.
bed, but if you ever
Hold the
want to
ball down.
revisit the
Hold the ball.
topic, we can.
Definitely. Like I no seriously, with your friend, you can come on with him if he decides, or if not, we can just finish this up because there's so much and I believe so many people got something from this.
Hold on, little ball.
So next week if you're not busy, definitely, but I'd also like your friend if he's willing to talk from the male perspective.
Ow,
Even
my eye!
Paul, look,
My
even your
eye!
Paul can switch it up.
Oh, the
Hey,
spray,
I'm
honey. The
look,
spray.
closed mouths don't get fed.
Spray got my eye!
So I just didn't want Tommy to feel like we were taking up all this time, and I'm gonna play the video of him once we hang up, and I can have it in the correct orientation. Tommy, I am so proud of you and your progress and how you process things and how you're doing in your new school. Your mommy posts about you all the time. She loves you so much, and you have a lot of aunties and uncles from her school that we love you
Who
dearly.
said amen?
Miss Laura said amen. Amen.
Why?
Amen.
Because she's agreeing with Miss Wanda. Thank you.
Aw.
Thank you for asking me to share my experiences. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I will be talking to you soon, my love.
Sounds good.
All right. Good
Good
night.
night,
Peace.
everyone. Thank you.
Me. I will never pretend to be another. I will never want to be another. I will not change who I am just to fit in. I am me. I am not perfect, but I'm working on myself. Working to become the best version of myself. I am working on myself to continue to expand my own self through my own work in my own way. I am me.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is your girl Wanda Gosbrad coming to you with part two of our podcast about infertility. What happens when you've connected all the dots and you're ready to start your family and it doesn't go quite as planned? Tonight, I have with me a new friend, Matt Leitner, and Matt is going to discuss this from the male perspective. Last week, we had Stacy on, and she was very, very candid about her experience with infertility and what it took to get to Tommy. And you met Tommy last week. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wanda, your intro is amazing. So congrats on those skills you have.
Thank
Um,
you.
my name is Matt. Hello, everyone. I went to high school with Wanda actually, and Stacy, and so I grew up in Baltimore. Went to City College High School. Did not have a traditional college upbringing at all. Eventually went to college. Finally got a career. Um, and and yeah, I'm here to talk about the male perspective of trying to conceive and what we go through too. Try to share that with any audience member that it might help.
And I thank you for being willing to talk about this because I know it can't be an easy discussion, but I know you've over the years found a way to kind of substitute not having a human baby with your four-legged baby.
Sure, I've probably owned 8 dogs over my life, including a Great Dane. So I went from an 180-pound Great Dane to a 20-pound Golden Doodle recently.
Oh, okay, okay. So now you went through the whole process. Tell us about like women are typically groomed to grow up. We're playing with our doll babies and we're
Right.
groomed to want children. Were you groomed in that way, or did you just have that natural paternal instinct and want children, or like what was your experience like from the male side?
Yeah, so I did not mature very fast. I was a slow maturer. Let's put it that way. It wasn't until I got the career and the house that I felt secure enough to bring a baby into the world.
Okay.
It wasn't until my mid 30s, you know.
Okay.
So it wasn't until our we were closer to our late 30s, early 40s before we actually both agreed we're ready to conceive. So we started late, and
Mm-hmm.
I never had that ingrained in my mind from a young age that I wanted children. In fact, I went into our relationship saying I didn't want children and then changed my mind.
Okay. So I do try to greet my guests as they come on. My sister
Yeah,
girl,
absolutely.
Denise, said hello. Shamanda said hello as well. Hi, my loves. So you said that how long were you and your beautiful wife Tara together before you decided that you wanted to have children?
We got married in 98 and we didn't start trying to conceive until 2003 or 4.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's a good length of time. So yeah, it wasn't until our mid to late 30s.
Okay. Now, when you decided that you wanted to have children, did you think that you would have any problems? And when you weren't conceiving right away, what did you think the issue was? Or did you think there was an issue?
Well, we actually did conceive the first time we tried the rhythm method or trying to procreate while she's ovulating.
Mm-hmm.
So we think like the first or the second time we tried using that method, she did get pregnant and then she lost the child quickly after.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So we didn't think we would have trouble going forward. Actually, the seed getting planted, but it was more about how long could it hold, would it
Mm-hmm.
stick, but we never conceived ever again.
Oh, wow. Okay. So now, when you weren't able to conceive again, we, I, one thing I realized in talking to Stacy is that even because we rally around the women
Yeah.
when you can't conceive, and I was a jerk unbeknownst to me. I think my story was how Stacy and I started talking about this was I had problematic menstrual cycles. I
Mm,
had endometriosis, fibroids, and cysts on my ovaries. But I have a child, and my child is 30 something. And every month I was going through, oh my God, somebody take these ovaries. I will sell my reproductive organs and blah, 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 blah. And
mm,
Stacy so eloquently came into my inbox and said, Wanda, I understand you're just joking, but so many of us would give anything to be in your position, just if we could conceive, even to have that pain. So
mm,
that's how all of this came about, the conversation and everything.
mm,
And but I never once, like, I immediately gravitated to her, and in that journey, when and we could talk about it, but I never once considered her husband and his feelings in
right.
it.
Yeah.
So how does it feel like to, like, did you feel left out of the process when people were, now I don't want to say feeling sorry, but I guess people do kind of feel sorry for you.
Yeah, it seemed to be that, our friend group, I go off with the guys, we play poker, we smoke cigars, whatever. And the
Hmm.
girls, they'll go off and do something else. And I'm not going to talk to my male friends about this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um,
That's, I was getting ready to ask you, is that a
they're
conversation you can have with the fellas?
not at the poker table,
Okay.
but
Okay.
maybe one on one with a friend of yours. I forgot the question, but
Basically, it's like, did you feel left out of the process or feel unsupported?
to a certain extent, nobody cared what I was feeling. It was all about, hey, there seemed to be more support around the female
Okay.
wife. Um, I didn't find any support, to be honest with you.
So how did you cope with it, and how did feeling unsupported make you feel?
Well, the fact that perhaps my infertility, um, the, I wasn't infertile. Let me put that. I had a low modality
Hmm.
in my sperm, and I had a low sperm count.
Okay.
So those reasons made me feel that it was me.
Mm.
It's my fault. It's because I smoked pot when I was younger. It's because I ride a bike. It's it's my fault. It's my boys that can't get it done.
Mm. Okay.
Um, so she has some fibroids as well. So it was a combination of both of us trying to beat this physiological challenge.
And did it affect the way you two related to one another? Like, I'm hoping you didn't, but did one blame the other more so, or like, did you go through that process, or
Well,
how did that?
Tara, yeah, well, Tara was my best support. We communicate very well, which is I think why we've been married for so long. Um, we would actually joke with each other and say it's
Mhm.
your fault, it's your fault, and kind of jokingly do that to take the stress off of our guilty feelings.
That's good. Okay.
Um, but as far as my support, Tara was my only support. Um, and we got through it without blaming each other, without having any fights. It was really sad when she had her miscarriage, and that was, a very sad time. But we got through that with unscathed pretty well.
Okay. My friend Denise is saying thank you for this perspective. um, Now, you said that, of course, you couldn't sit at the poker table and discuss this with the fellas
Well, you
or
could bring it
whatever.
up, but that's at your own risk.
Like, yeah. So if you if you would have like, did you have a moment where like you broke down and it's like you really wish that you could talk to the fellas, or was there anyone in particular that you could go to and say, man, I'm feeling this way, or or did you just have to sort of, as they say, man up and hold it in?
Yeah, I think the latter was more it. Because if you're at a poker table or even with a male friend and you bring it up, you're risking that it gets brought up in a male setting again where it's teasing. And,
Okay.
and so I say you bring it up at your own peril, because you're going to hear about it later if you do, because it's not a manly thing to talk about.
Okay. And
You know what
so
I'm saying?
I get it. I get it. But then it's like, that's, I guess women have it easy because we're allowed to be vulnerable. It's like you're not allowed that vulnerable space with something that was so important to you. You know, and I feel like that's unfair. Like, um I feel like it's unfair that men are taught, like, like I said, that man up, men don't cry, and, men don't show emotion, but you're human too,
Sure.
So, now, in dealing with this, how did you learn, like, first of all, how long did you and Tara try to conceive before you finally said, this is not, and what methods did you try?
Mhm. Well, she would go to the drugstore and buy all kinds of ovulation tests. She would
Hmm.
buy many different brands just to make sure it was working. And
Right.
she would pee on sticks all day long until it
Mhm.
was ready to go. Um, and we tried for about, let's see, about 4 years.
Mhm.
Uh, Let me take that back. We tried for about 2 years with the ovulation tests,
Okay.
and I tried to time it right. We at that time decided, well, we're just not going to use protection. If it happens, it happens.
Okay.
And now we're too old and crusty.
Not crusty. I love you, I swear. um so it took you how many years when you just said, I'm just done? Like,
It was a couple of years because it is a lot of stress, and we wanted to alleviate that stress from each other.
did it put stress on the marriage at any point in time?
You know, there was a feeling of inadequacy that we both held. We both felt guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And those dynamics can create some sort of shift in the force. But like I said, I think we got through it pretty unscathed as far as it affecting our marriage.
Right. Okay. I love, like, that it seems that you two have a strong foundation of friendship.
Oh yeah.
Um and I think that's the most important thing. Like, even in my own relationship, I said, before anything, we're friends. And then the rest of the stuff comes after that. And I think when you have that strong foundation of friendship, and your feelings matter to me, you can overcome anything, in my opinion.
Mm.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, now, how do you channel your feelings of wanting a child? Like, where do you put that energy now?
Yeah. So now I'm kind of happy I don't have kids at this age right now, because
Okay.
if we would have procreated in our early 40s, then let's see, 50, I'd be about 58 when the kid would graduate from high school.
Mhm. Right.
Um,
Right.
so it's kind of a blessing now because I have my freedom. You know, we don't have to rearrange our lives to someone else. So
Right.
it's a blessing now, and I'm kind of glad now. But at the time, I really wanted that kid.
Yeah,
You know?
I can get it. I had my daughter at 21. So she wasn't necessarily planned, but I said she wasn't planned, but she wasn't an accident. I was on birth control pills, but I took an antibiotic and it lessened the birth control pill, and lo and behold,
It's like
so
also on a condom, isn't it?
exactly. So, but I have a lot of friends that reproduce later in life, and now I'm at that stage, like you said, you would be a certain age when the kid graduated from high school. Now we're at that stage where we're traveling and stuff. My child is in her 30s, and off doing her own thing.
Right.
But had I started later in life, I'd be worrying about, well, what am I gonna do? And now, I'm footloose and fancy free. So
Like I
I
said, I matured very slowly. So it wasn't until I felt like I could provide for this child well enough
mhm.
before I even considered it.
Well, and that was good because what I've noticed about men is like until they feel like they're at a certain place in life, financially stable, they don't want to get married, they don't want to have kids, and they don't, which is actually very good. So you want to be able to provide for that wife and your child. Now you have a four-legged baby.
Yes, he's around here somewhere. His name is
Oh,
Louie. He's a golden doodle, and he's awesome.
aw. Now, Stacy was telling me that I believe you coach some
Soccer.
soccer team. Okay, a soccer team. Tell me about your children, because you have a whole team of children now.
Yeah, so I coached soccer for about 8 or 9 years without having a kid on the team. But kind of
Hmm.
all the other parents are like, "What is this creep doing?" With their kids. But I grew up playing soccer. I played soccer for 20 years. I learned more about soccer in the first year of coaching than I ever had playing the sport.
Okay.
And I love the aha moments most, where I could teach the children and they would get it. Those aha moments were worth it to me. In fact, I enjoyed the practices more than the games. It wasn't about
Oh.
the winning, it was more about the teaching. And I really enjoyed my time I spent with other people's children and then can send them home. You know, my wife, Tara, she teaches dance, and she's a dance teacher and teaches children too. So we both have had our share of working with children, but never had our own.
But that's beautiful because you still get, I don't mean any harm, but sometimes it's good when you can love on them and send them home. That's just my opinion. You get to love on them, you get to teach them, you feel fulfilled, and then bye bye. So what is your greatest joy? You said you got more from the practices, like in your
Mm.
experiences with these practices with the kids, like what do you enjoy the most, what do you enjoy the least, how do the parents respond to you you know
You have good teams and bad teams. You have good parents and bad parents.
mm-hmm.
Each individual child is different. I almost had to call the police on one of my kids
Mm.
because he was hitting his teammates, and the parents were getting so upset that they said, "We're going to call the police if you don't."
Oh, wow.
So there's levels of joy, but the most joy I got with soccer coaching was, like I said, those aha moments. Those uh, why are we okay? Line up here, not just line up here, but why are we lining up here? What's the purpose of us forming in triangles? What's the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of this? And it was teaching it was really getting their minds around the basics of the game that I never had growing up in all of my coaching.
Okay. Okay.
So it was really teaching them some solid techniques, um, and I worked very hard to give them the best practices. I planned my practices. I was on top of everything, and I put a lot of effort into it. And and I still keep in touch with some of my soccer kids today.
That's
So
what I was just getting ready to ask you. I had do you run into them and what is their feedback to you? Because I was blessed just last week. One of me and my daughter are estranged right now. Her doing,
I'm
God
sorry.
said He has a work to do in her. I can't say it doesn't hurt, but I know I've been a good mom. So I can't do anything about it. Just like I have free will, she has free will. But one of her girlfriends reached out to me recently, just last week, and she said, Mommy, I will love you forever. She said, Thank you for being a safe place for me. She reminded me of taking her brother, and my daughter to a movie, and it was Freedom Writers. And I gave them an assignment. I was always, everything was a teachable moment. And she was like, Thank you for loving me.
Oh,
So
that's so sweet.
I cried happy tears because when your own child is going through a moment, and you start to doubt yourself, and to know that, and one of her other girlfriends has made me honorary grandmother to her son. So I said, I can't be that daggone bad, but but when you run into the kids, what's the feedback that you get?
Yeah, I don't actually run into them because I've moved away from that area. I used to live
Okay.
in Denton, Maryland. It's about 85% Trumpers, so I got out
Okay.
of there.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
um, but I keep in touch on Facebook. There was one particular player. His name was Ben. Is Ben? He ended up being a pilot, and he got in touch with me on my DMs and Facebook, and he said, "Thank you for teaching me soccer, but you also taught me how to be a man." And I think that was the best. That made me feel so. It feels so good just saying it.
Right, right. Oh man. It does make you feel a special way, because when I say I cry, I was but
You mess that makeup up.
yeah, you're right, exactly. Exactly. But it's like I don't know, like so when you and Tara were going through still trying to conceive, did you go like try any medical intervention, or you just knew right away that, I mean, what did you do to try to, or
Yeah.
did you do?
So we saw an infertility specialist, and the infertility specialist was pretty frank with us and told us our insurance was crap,
Oh,
and it's going to cost $15,000 each IVF.
wow.
So yeah, I had season tickets to the Ravens, but that didn't mean I was rich.
Right.
I couldn't we couldn't afford that. We had owned our own business, and so the only insurance that we could get was for a small amount of people,
Mm-hmm.
a large group policy.
Right.
Um, so we just decided not to go the IVF route. It was just cost preventive for us.
I can understand that. Did you ever consider surrogacy, or was that the same thing?
Um, we haven't considered surrogacy. We did consider adoption at one point.
Okay.
Um, that was also expensive, but there was a process that we could have probably afforded it. But I think we got to the age where we just thought, okay, we're too old now. So,
Okay.
um, but Yeah, we didn't seek out anything else. We just kind of said if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Hmm.
And yeah,
That makes sense though, because at least you were realistic and you didn't go into. I hate to put but if finances is a big part and it's a major part in it. You didn't put yourself in debt
well,
trying
some
to.
may say my priorities weren't there because I would have come up with the money. But let's remember, it's $15,000 per IVF.
Right.
They're not guaranteed at all.
That's what I was about to say. You have a 50-50 shot.
Hmm.
And then even if you are to get pregnant, then can you carry the pregnancy to term? So
Exactly, and we were concerned about that as well.
right, right. I mean, it's a blessing that you found other avenues of putting your parental feelings into play, like without being considered the creep. I commend you for that. I just really wanted to talk, like I said, because I had never, until I talked to Stacy and she mentioned you, never considered the male perspective. And I said, this is something that people need to be aware of, that our men need to be supported as well as the women when there's an issue, if it's a known issue, because so many people feel like they have to hide the fact that they're going through infertility issues, like they
Hmm.
feel embarrassed, they feel ashamed.
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know did you feel that?
No, I don't get embarrassed about stuff. In fact, I'm going to tell you an R-rated story.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
So, when we first saw an infertility specialist, the first thing they do is they check the male sperm.
Hmm.
That's the easiest thing. If it's the male sperm, then we know what it is. We could take it from there. We lived in a a country kind of geography. The lab to receive my sperm sample was 45 minutes away. The doctor
Hmm.
told us the lab had to be at least 30 minutes fresh. So I told Tara, okay, these are our jobs. You're the driver. She didn't know where she was going, so I was the navigator masturbator.
Okay. Literally.
Literally, we had to get that sample there within a certain amount of time, and I was
Right.
away.
And then how do you concentrate on the twos? Like, you got to get your mind in place for one thing, but you got to show her. Oh, that's hilarious.
We got an LOL from someone.
Yeah, that's my sister Denise. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but so
pictures.
that just shows how much embarrassed I get. I don't get embarrassed about that
I
stuff.
love it. I love it. But that's yeah, that's funny. Yeah, honey, and take a left here and okay. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I am so glad that Stacy made this introduction. We're gonna be friends, Matt. You've not heard the last of me.
Well, I hope not. I hope not.
You've not heard the last of me. And I just wanted to thank you so much for being willing to share the perspective. Is there anything that you would want any male to know, or that's going through this, like how to navigate it, how to push
Yeah.
through it, or
Well, I had Tara for support. If you don't have your wife for support, then you got to find it somewhere else because this whole man up and suck it up thing, it's not going to work.
right,
You got to find maybe your mom, maybe your grandma, maybe your niece. Usually a female will be more receptive to the inner workings of procreation than men for some reason.
Mhm.
But if you find a sensitive man, he could be good support for you as well. You just have to find that support and don't stop looking for it because it's out there.
I like that. I like that. And it's a shame, like, it's easy for us to have a sisterhood. It would be nice if you guys could have a brotherhood around that, but again, that male got to be macho and can't show emotion or whatever, and men cry in the dark. So, but I just want to thank you. I'm not going to hold you forever and ever, amen, but I just wanted people to realize that men have feelings too in this scenario, and your feelings matter. And hopefully, if there's a male out there that will watch the show, they know that it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to share. And like you said, even if you have to find a female counterpart to share your feelings with, hopefully one can be your spouse or your partner. But like you said, mom, grandmom, whomever that you can find the support from, it's okay. Did you seek therapy? That's a question I didn't think to ask. Did you seek therapy?
We've been to marriage counseling, but not for that.
Okay, okay. Bridget
Yeah.
said this is such an important topic.
If any men are going through this right now, they can certainly connect with me. I'm happy to share anything they want with them. I know I'm a stranger, but I'll offer my support as well.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. I'll definitely put that up. I shared this on your page, and I shared it to my stories. I'm going to share it to my Facebook group as well. And it's on YouTube and Twitch and all of that other good stuff. So Bridget, you said this is such an important topic. I hope you'll go back and watch last week's episode as well, where my girlfriend Stacy was talking about her journey with infertility. And then absolutely good topic. Wanda's World is so good. Oh, thank you, Manda Panda. So I'm gonna go and let you go. Tell Tara, connect with me. You have my number and everything. We can do the makeup thing because
Oh,
I
we're gonna
love
be friends, Wanda.
how.
We're gonna be friends.
Oh, we already are. Don't you feel
Yeah,
it?
I feel it.
Can you feel it? Can you
Keep
feel it?
going.
Okay. But so with that, I'm gonna say good night to everyone. Thank you guys for joining in with me. I just had to have the male perspective once I had Stacy on and little Tommy. In this case, we didn't end up with a little bambino, but we're okay because we have a four-legged baby,
That's right.
and we have freedom.
That's
lots
right.
of
Freedom is
lots
worth it.
of
That
friends
is
here.
priceless. I mean to say.
Exactly. They said lots of friends here. So we will definitely be connecting. And I thank you, Matt, for agreeing to come on. I appreciate you. And you haven't heard the last from me.
Right
Call
on.
me anytime.
Thank you, Wanda, for doing this important show, and peace.
Peace and blessings.